James Bell of the Boxing Source coming to you with another video. And this one here is to talk about Andy Ruiz Jr. Question is, what is next for Andy Ruiz? Um, he has gone through 2019, and of course, he had the upset of the year, defeating Anthony Joshua in Madison Square Garden on June 1st. And now we're coming off what happened over in the Rio Arena and him losing those titles to Anthony Joshua in the rematch on December 7th. And now we're trying to figure out what is next for Andy Ruiz. You have a lot of people that have been disappointed with his performance on December 7th, with him coming into that fight at 283 pounds, 15 pounds heavier than what he came in at for the fight on June 1st, and basically just winning only one or two rounds in his rematch against Anthony Joshua. And now it is a mystery to see what is next for the now former unified heavyweight champion. Um, he only has two losses on his record. The first loss being a close decision loss to Joseph Parker, for at the time was the vacant WBO heavyweight championship, and now this unanimous decision loss to Anthony Joshua for the unified heavyweight championship. So just got to figure out what would be next for Andy Ruiz Jr. I mean, this is still a guy that had, worked his way up the heavyweight ranks, got up to that particular point where he fought Joseph Parker for the WBO heavyweight championship, and then after he lost that fight by decision, he was basically put on the shelf for 2 years. Then he was signed under the advisement of Al Heyman and Heyman Boxing, got a few fights there, and then ended up being the replacement opponent for Anthony Joshua in Madison Square Garden. Uh, and the contract seemed to have him with that fight against Anthony Joshua with a rematch clause, but now it seems like there is an option for a third fight with Andy Ruiz Jr. under Matchroom Boxing. So you do have that possible third fight between him and Anthony Joshua. Of course, they were talking about saying that there would be a third fight between those two guys. Anthony Joshua said after the fight, if you heard, there's going to be a third. But with the situation, with the IBF mandatory and the WBO mandatory, highly unlikely that that third fight would be next. So that leaves Andy Ruiz Jr. out there to fight other guys that are there within the heavyweight division. It's yet to be seen where Ruiz Jr. lands in the rankings in the WBA, IBF, and WBO. But it looks like in the WBC, he has been placed 7th in the WBC rankings. That places him above Adam Kalnacki and Joseph Parker, and below Alexander Povetkin, Luis Ortiz, Alexander Usyk, Oscar Rivas, Tyson Fury, and Dylan White. But that opens up things as far as like who Andy Ruiz could fight. Andy Ruiz was part of the fight card where you had Alexander Povetkin and Michael Hunter facing each other. Those guys fought to a draw, but both of those guys, even though they opened a possibility for a rematch against each other, those two guys are two possible opponents for Andy Ruiz Jr. Another possible opponent for Andy Ruiz is the now reinstated interim WBC heavyweight champion Dylan White. That is another fight that could be made in 2020. That would be a very interesting fight. Ruiz Jr., Dylan White. I think that would be a very good matchup if that would be put together. Another possible fight is a rematch between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Joseph Parker. I know that Joseph Parker is, potentially um, in a fight later on down the line, but that fight between him and Ruiz Jr. to see who would really be able to come out as the clear victor would be some interest in the heavyweight division. Also, one other potential matchup that could happen involving Andy Ruiz Jr. is against Luis Ortiz. That is one that I would like to see, mainly because Luis Ortiz has not really fought anyone within that range in the heavyweight division other than Deontay Wilder. I want to see Luis Ortiz against a guy of Andy Ruiz's caliber. That would show where Luis Ortiz really is at this particular point of his professional career. So, that is another fight that could be made that I feel is possible, and with the exception of maybe Andy Ruiz Jr. against Dylan White or a rematch between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Joseph Parker, that's probably amongst the top of my list for potential fights involving Andy Ruiz Jr. But that is still up in the air. We have to see what happens in 2020 when it comes to Andy Ruiz Jr. Hopefully, he is not put on the shelf like he was after his close decision loss to Joseph Parker back in 2016 for, at the time, the vacant WBO heavyweight championship. We want to see him back in the ring, in action, and active there. So that's pretty much what I have. You could share your thoughts about what would be next for Andy Ruiz Jr. after his loss to Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia for the unified heavyweight titles. Be sure to subscribe to the Boxing Source here on YouTube and catch the Boxing Source radio show live at 7:30 p.m. Sunday nights on Blog Talk Radio, or you could catch the podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. On that note, folks, I'm out. Peace.